Hello students, good morning. Hi, we are back again and pandemic could not stop us from learning. I hope all of you enjoyed your Ganpati festival and not to forget your social distancing. No? I hope you enjoyed your Ganpati festival and I am your science teacher. My name is Kiran. Children, earlier lectures we have learned. I'm not going to start with a new lesson today. In fact, I am going to continue the lesson which was started earlier. My name is Kiran. As I said, I'm your science teacher. And the earlier lecture, which was half completed, and the name was Inside the Atom. Children, earlier we have learned that all the living and non-living things are made up of atoms. All the living and non-living things around us are made up of atoms. But now we are going to learn what is inside the atom. So we are all ready for it. And let me just revise what we have done in your earlier class. Let's start with, I hope you have done, these are the learning outcomes which we are going to cover up today of our Inside the Atom chapter. In the earlier class, children, you have learned about the types of substances. Now, what do you mean by types of substances? It says whether the substance, whether the matter is an element or a compound or an atom or a molecule. Now, what do you mean by that? You have learned earlier. If a substance is single type of atom, it is called a molecule. But when there are different types of atoms present in a substance, for example, water. In water, you have hydrogen and oxygen. When you have two different types or more types of atoms in a molecule, it is called a different type of atom is molecule and it is called as a compound. Do you get my point? For example, I take helium. Helium is a single element, single atom. So we can write it as atom and it is a single type of atom. So we call it as a single type atom in a molecule and this is only an element. Similarly, I go ahead with an example of methane, which has CH4. Methane has carbon and hydrogen. Now we come to this. It is a molecule and it is not a single type because carbon and hydrogen, two things are involved in it and we say that it is a compound, right? Ammonia, methane, these are compounds. Let us go further what you have learned earlier. Children, you have learned Dalton's atomic theory. According to the Dalton's atomic theory, Dalton said that atom is a hard substance. According to him, he said atom is a hard, solid ball which is indivisible and indestructible. Nobody can create it or nobody can destroy it. But according to Dalton, he said that the positive charge present in the atom is spread all over it and the mass is spread, distributed evenly all over the atom. But Dalton gave his atomic theory. Scientists keep on discovering new things. So another scientist named Sir J.J. Thomson, he came up with his model saying that, yes, Dalton was right by saying positively charged particles present and evenly spread out. But according to him, he said there are equal number of negatively charged particles also present in an atom. So what he said? He said that positive and negative equal number of particles, charged particles are present in an atom and they are evenly distributed. So number of positive and number of negative charged particles are embedded inside the atom. He gave Here I have shown you a watermelon to make you understand, but his model was named as plum and pudding model. See, if you eat a plum and pudding and your mother has put some dry fruits in it, all the dry fruits are embedded in it. Two types of dry fruits if you imagine. One you can say cashew, and other you can say cardamom or anything else, like pieces are embedded inside it. But according to Thomson, he said it is all over distributed. But you know, our scientists do not sit after one discovery, they keep on modifying their models. So one more scientist came up with his theory. That was the scientist named Rutherford. Rutherford came out with his own experiment, and through his scattering experiment, he decided and he gave this theory. He happened to bombard a gold plate with alpha rays. He tried to pass alpha particles as a beam through the gold plate, and what he saw most of the alpha particles could pass through the gold plate, but a few particles were reflected back, were given back. You know, if there is an obstruction, like if you throw a ball on a wall, what happens? The ball bounces back. So here he saw, why did it not pass? All the alpha particles could not pass. This was because, according to him, he said that most of the particle had the atom had lots of weight in the nucleus. Now, according to him, he gave another picture I will show you. Bohr's nuclear atomic model. According to Bohr's nuclear model, he said, according to Rutherford's nuclear model, atomic model, he said that the nucleus is heavy and the nucleus is having lots of positive charge in it, and all the negative are not equally embedded inside it. Rather, they are in the outer area of the nucleus. That means it is all around the nucleus. That means, according to Rutherford, he said there are few open spaces inside it. Like if you stand in a Wankhede stadium, a football is there, lots of spaces uncovered and a little part is covered by your football. So here he also wanted to say that the nucleus is the heavy part of the atom, and all the mass is distributed. The positive charge is in the nucleus. And see here, you can see the rays. These are the alpha rays which are passing. A few alpha rays, when come in touch with the nucleus, it is reverted back. It is thrown back. It is emitted back. So let us see Rutherford. According to Rutherford, the nuclear model, let us see ahead. There were many more scientists who came into existence. That was, they came up with Bohr's atomic model. Now, as they found that Rutherford was right. There were positively charged particles in the center and the negatively charged electrons around the nucleus. But to make it more easy for you to learn, they gave a picture. He said, Bohr's atomic model said that the electrons are moving in a circular orbit. What did I say? The electrons are moving in a circular orbit. You can see the positive charge is in the center and there are circular parts named 1, 2, 3 and 4. And to make it convenient for us to study, he gave the names as KLMN. Now these orbits were named as shells because these orbits were three-dimensional in nature. Because they were three-dimensional in nature, of course, they were moving in a circular part. To help us study, he gave the name as shells. Now KLMN denotes the first orbit, the second, the third and the fourth one. Now let us see how he could distribute. Now he had given a formula. If you have number of electrons, correct? You have number of electrons, say 5, 10, 7, they have to be distributed. Now, distribution is to be done in a pattern. He gave a formula which we will learn later, but I would like to highlight here, if the electrons are there, in a same orbit, they are moving in the same orbit, the energy level remains same. The energy level remains constant, and we will tell you, see, every scientist does his own work, but there are drawbacks in everything. Now again, Bohr's atomic model also had some drawback, and a new science came into existence. A new science came into existence which was called as quantum mechanics. Now, according to quantum mechanics, an atom was said to be having this. See, let's see. According to quantum mechanics, what it was said, the atom has two parts. One is the nuclear part and the other is the extranuclear part. Now, the nuclear part is the center portion. Now, let us see what happens in the nuclear part. Nuclear part consists of positively charged protons and the negatively charged, the neutrons which were having no charge in it. The protons were positively charged and the neutrons do not have charge on it. Now, both of them, these protons and nucleons, both are, when joined together, are called nucleons. So do you understand? The protons are positively charged particles which are present in the nucleus, that is a nuclear part inside. And the extra nuclear part. Now, what do you mean by extra? That means something which is outside the nucleus. The extra nuclear part consists of electrons, which are denoted by negatively charged particles. Now, how do you represent an atom? We will take this as your formula. See here, according to this formula, it will say that you have to write this symbol here. Symbol says hydrogen is denoted by H, carbon by C, and many more. From the periodic table, you can take the symbols. Now, what do you mean by this? Symbol has to be written here, but here I have written as A. Now, what is A? Let me show you. A says the atomic mass. Now, what is the atomic mass, children? Atomic mass is the positively charged particles, that are protons, plus the neutrons present inside the nucleus. So it is a total of the proton and the neutrons. Now, what is Z? The atomic number is denoted by Z. Now, this is very important here. Whenever we are going to decide about the distribution of electrons, as I said earlier, I'm going to tell you, I will give you an example before we go ahead. Let us see the example of sodium. Sodium is written as Na. The scientific name is natrium. So here we have said sodium as Na, and what we have written here is 23. 23 is the atomic mass number and 11 is the atomic number of sodium. Now, I told you we have to do the distribution of the electrons. I will tell you here how these electrons can be counted and put in a particular shell, where I told you that these electrons will be distributed in each shell. Now, I will give you the formula which can be used and through which you can decide the capacity of that shell. The formula given here was 2n square. Yes, the formula we have to use here is 2n square, where n stands for number of shell. N is the nth shell. It can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 3 and 4. And for the convenience, Bohr had given us K, L, M, N, the names of the particular shell. The first shell was named as K shell. Now let us see the capacity of that orbit, that shell. Now, how will you decide the capacity of that shell? I will write here N stands for 1. When n stands for 1, that is the first orbit. I will substitute n as 1 and see what I get. 1 raised to 2 will always remain 1. So 2 into 1 is 2. Similarly, I go to the next shell, that is shell number 2, which is denoted as L. And let us see through the formula 2n square, where n is substituted by 2. And when you solve this, you get the number 8. So the capacity of second shell will be 8 electrons. Now we go to the third shell. The third shell says if n is substituted by the number 3, what will I get? I get 18. 3 3s are 9 and 2 into 9 is 18. Now you have to remember these numbers, the capacity. Similarly, I go further with the n shell, that is the fourth shell. If I substitute n as 4 and I put it in the formula, what I get is 32. Now children, I want you to remember this formula, and accordingly I want you to say what will be the capacity of the first shell. The capacity of first shell will be only 2. The capacity to hold the electrons in the second shell will be 8. And the capacity of third will be 18. The capacity of fourth shell will be 32. Now I want to highlight here that if the number of electrons differ, like you have something 7 or 8, you cannot accommodate the third electron here. That means the maximum capacity of a shell to hold the electrons is only this much. You cannot exceed the number of electrons from this. It can be less. You can accommodate less number of electrons in the shell, but not more than the decided number 2, 8, 18 and 32. I will help you to make the numerical formula in this way. Let me see. See, how will you distribute this now? The distribution can be done as, I told you the maximum capacity of K, L, M, N is shown here. I will tell you how to write the numerical expression of it. If I take hydrogen, hydrogen has only one atom. So it can be accommodated only in the first shell. As it is incomplete, here I have given it as 1. But it is incomplete, so it is unstable in nature. But whereas helium has 2 electrons, and it can be distributed in the first shell, and 2 completes the orbit, and this becomes a stable element. I will go further to show you neon. Similarly, neon is also having a number of electrons are 10. The first shell will accommodate 2. Now the third will not go into the first one. It will go to the second one as 8. Now here also, if the octet is complete, the element is said to be stable. Like they are also called inert gases. Neon, xenon, radon, argon. These are called the stable elements which are present in nature. They do not react with anything, and they are also called as inert gases. So we go further with bromine. Bromine says that 35. Now I have given you the maximum limit here. In the first shell is 2. The second shell is 8. The third shell is also a complete now with 18, and the remaining 7 goes to the fourth shell. Let us move ahead and see some electronic configurations. Dear children, you can see here the electronic configuration can be made when you know the atomic number and the distribution as per the numerical configuration I just showed you. Now here you have to see hydrogen. Hydrogen had 1 electron, so it is accommodating in the first shell only. And helium has 2, so the first shell is completing its maximum capacity. I go further with the carbon. The carbon has 6 atomic number, which can be distributed as 2 in the first orbit, 2 in the first shell, that is the K shell, and 4 in the outer one. And neon which has the octet complete. And I told you if the octet is complete, it can be stable. And here the sodium has 11 electrons, and see how it is distributed. And the numerical formula I have already told you about it. It is 2, 8 and 11. Now children, I want you to remember what was there in the outer orbit, outer shell. You have to remember the outer orbit. Children, I want to highlight on this. Whenever you draw an electronic configuration, you have to remember the outermost orbit. The outermost orbit, what does it mean? The outermost orbit, when it has electrons, it is called it is also said the valency deciding orbit. Correct? The valency deciding shell. You have the outermost orbit here is called valence orbit, and the electrons which are present here are called, the electrons present here are called the valence electrons. Let us see what does it mean. It means that the configuration in the outermost shell I told you to see. The outermost shell is called the valence shell, which is deciding the valency of an element, and the electrons present there are called valence electrons. Now children, what is this valency? What is the valency? I will tell you by the definition. Let's see what is valency. Valency says it is a capacity of an atom to give, accept or share electrons. As I said earlier, when the octet is not complete, when the maximum capacity of electrons are not complete, you tend to take the electrons to make yourself stable. Correct? You take some electrons from the elements which are present in the nature, and you try to take it from there, or if it is not possible to take it, you either give your electron to somebody so that you are in a stable state, and that electron or that atom also is allowed to share the outermost number of electrons with another element to make itself and the other one. So it is symbiosis. You help others, you take help from others, and you become stable. Now let us see through this table how you can keep yourself stable by giving, accepting or sharing of electrons. Now in this, I can tell you with the example of HCl, that is hydrochloric acid. I will see what is the valency of hydrogen. Now valency of hydrogen, the atomic number of hydrogen is 1. The electronic configuration also we have learned is 1 in the outermost shell. Now I told you in the outermost shell will decide the valency. Now straight away from here, the valence electrons is 1 and the valency will also be 1. Let us go ahead. When I told you hydrochloric acid, here I explained you about valency of hydrogen. Now the other case, let me just help you out to understand valency of chlorine. See children, chlorine is having 17. Now you will say the atomic number of hydrogen was a 1 and the valency was 1. But here the atomic number of chlorine is 17. Still, here I can denote it as the valency is still 1. Now I will tell you how. The numerical electronic configuration I told you earlier was as per the maximum capacity 2 in the first shell, 8 in the second shell and 7 in the outermost shell. Now I told you the outermost shell contains the valence electrons. Here the valence number of electrons is 7. See, but 7 cannot be easily given out to somebody. You will not give something you have more. To make your octet complete, you will have to take one electron from somebody, which is more easier. Correct? Giving out 7 electrons will not be easier, but taking 1 electron will be easier. For this, I have given you a formula here. In case the valence electrons are more than 4, we are going to use this formula 8 minus x. Now x is 7. X is 7. Let us see, 8 minus 7 gives you 1. Now the chlorine will have valency as 1. Correct? Or this will be applied only if X is more than 4. Correct? In the case of 7 and 8. 8 will, you will not have to do it because 8 minus 8 will become 0. And as I told you earlier, neon has the octet complete. So it does not have a valency. It is itself a stable element. Let us go further and take the example of sodium in this. Let us see the configuration of sodium. It has atomic number 11 and the numerical electronic configuration is 2, 8 and 1. The outermost element electrons is, the outermost shell will have 1 electron and the valency will remain 1. Here further I go down to Mg. Mg is magnesium. Magnesium has 12 atomic number and let us see the distribution is 2, 8, 2. The outermost valence electrons are 2 and hence you get valency as 2. Correct? Here I had said you will use this formula only in case the outermost outermost orbit will have more than 4. Here if you have 4, in the case of carbon, you have 4 in your outermost shell. The valence electrons are 4 and 8 minus 4 again remains 4 only. So it may accept from others, it may also give it to the other elements to make itself stable. Let us go further and see what do we have in the next topic is isotopes. Now, what are isotopes? See children, you have elements in your periodic table, but few elements are little deviated. The atoms are those elements which are already present in the atomic, in the periodic table, but due to some reasons they have a different atomic mass. See, they have the same atomic number and different atomic mass numbers are called isotopes. Now I will tell you how does it have different atomic mass. As we said earlier, the number of electrons and the number of protons always remain same. The positive and the negative always remain same. And what makes the changes? Let us see further. It is the neutrons which decide the atomic mass. It is the neutrons which decide the atomic mass. See here, I will help you understand this with the isotopes of hydrogen. As I told you, hydrogen is unstable on its own. See, it has number of atomic number is 1. So the number of electrons will be 1. The number of protons will be 1 here because it has to be equal. But here the number of neutrons are 0. So we write it in this format. This is the way you write it and the name given here is hydrogen itself. Now the second type of hydrogen is the isotope of hydrogen. The different type we call it as isotope. Okay. It is named as deuterium. It is named as deuterium and the electrons and protons will remain the same as 1. But here the number of neutrons is exceeding. Here it was 0. But here the number of neutrons has exceeded by 1 and which can be written as hydrogen. 2 is the atomic mass number and 1 will be the atomic number. The third isotope of hydrogen is tritium. It is called tritium. See, tree itself denotes that 3. The atomic mass should be 3. Now how? Electrons and protons will again remain same. That is 1 electron, 1 proton. But the number of neutron here has changed. That is 2. So 2 plus 1 proton becomes 3. Here the atomic mass has changed. So do you understand now? The isotopes have the different atomic mass number, but the atomic number remains same. I give you some more examples like carbon. Carbon here you can understand 12, 13 and 14. Now the number of protons and electrons remain the same, but here only the number of neutrons change as 6, 7 and 8. Let's move further by the other examples. And now, what are the uses of these isotopes? There must be some uses. If they are existing in the nature, there may be definitely our scientists are very smart. They will use this for their benefits. Now, these isotopes are used in various fields like industries, agriculture field, the medicine, and many other research fields are using some of the isotopes. I will name few of them for you. This is uranium-235, which is greatly used for the production of electricity. See, the electricity which is obtained in our houses is made up of uranium-235 by the nuclear fission of the uranium-235. I will tell you how this nuclear fission is done later. And see, a person who is suffering from cancer, it is a very deadly disease, we say, but the treatment of this is also, you say, radiation diya hai. So cobalt is used. Cobalt-60 is the isotope used for the treatment of cancer. Now here you have seen some people suffering from that swelling of your thyroid glands in your throat. That is due to lack of iodine. Now treatment, that disease is called goiter. Now this disease, goiter, which is caused due to the deficiency of iodine, if you give some rays of iodine 131, you can to some extent treat with your goiter. You must have seen some people having a swelling throat, that is due to the deficiency of iodine in their body. And next we will see sodium-24. Sodium-24 is the isotope which can be used to detect the cracks. Actually, you must be knowing there are huge pipes underground. In Bombay also, every time there is some work going on the roads, and there are huge pipes carrying your water into it. So if there is a damage and a leakage in that pipe, it is not possible for us to locate where is the damage done. So if you pass on this sodium-24 over the earth's surface, you will come to know and you can detect the leakage of the pipe on the underground. Underground, how you cannot just open the ground everywhere. For example, you have a tube of your cycle or your bike or your car. The mechanic also tests it with dipping it with water. He fills it with air and dips it into the water. Wherever the air bubble comes out, it can be seen that the leakage is here, so that you can just open up that portion of the earth and mend it and correct it and again repack it. Okay, and the isotope, many of the isotopes are here also used for preservation of food. Children, earlier I had told you lots of electricity is produced by nuclear fission of uranium-235. And from where and how it can be generated, I will tell you. These are nuclear reactors, the machines which convert uranium-235 into lots of electricity are called nuclear reactors. Now, what are these nuclear reactors? Nuclear reactors are machines that generate electricity on the large scale using atomic energy. By using atomic energy. Very good. See, this is a plant. Now, where are these plants located? Just see, this is lots of energy coming out. It can also blast, an explosion may occur. So it has to be under great care. Let us see where these nuclear reactors are situated. Children, you have heard the name as BARC, that is Bhabha Atomic Research Center. This is situated, the nuclear reactor is situated at BARC, and this is the place where the nuclear reactor uses uranium-235 for producing maximum of electrical energy, and the headquarters of this is at Bombay. Now, let us see how this disintegration happens. The uranium-235 disintegrates when a slow speed, when a neutron is thrown with a very slow speed on this particle of uranium-235, there is a nuclear fission occurring. Fission means a little breakup happens and lots of energy is released. See, this is unstable. When something breaks up, it is unstable. Lots of energy is coming out, but the byproducts are always there. Har cheez ke merits and demerits are there. So we see what are the byproducts coming out. Krypton 92 and barium 141 are the byproducts coming out, and the energy here you can see is, see, this neutrons are again coming out. Then again these neutrons, when are carried out with a slow speed, they again come back to its original position, that is uranium-235, and again the same thing occurs, and again the same byproduct comes out, and this forms a chain reaction. See, from uranium it gives out energy, it gives out krypton and barium, and again when this neutrons come back into the uranium-235, lot more energy can be produced, and a maximum energy can be released. Now, if lots of energy is released, there is a possibility of blast. I will tell you how they take care of this blast. If you do not control your energy, there may be a blast, and where the nuclear reactor is there itself there will be a blast. So water here is used as a coolant. किसी भी चीज को गर्म करने के बाद ठंडा करना है तो we use water. See, the water here is used here in this nuclear reactor to control the energy level so that it should not explode. Now, in India, there are 22 nuclear reactors which are placed at 8 places. Now, Apsara was the first nuclear reactor which was located at BARC. See, this is the place, you know, BARC is at Chembur. If you live in Mumbai, you should know about it, that this is the place where atom bombs are also made so that we can have our safety purpose. We do not go for destruction, but for safety purpose, of course, yes, we are making bombs also so that we can need it in our near. Sorry, beta, you have to bear with it. And the nuclear reactor, the first nuclear reactor was Apsara. Okay, now there are large reserves of many isotopes, that is thorium-232, and our scientists are very smart enough. What they have done, they are having future plans to construct more nuclear reactors which will be based on the production of the isotopes of uranium-233 and thorium-232. So this was what we learned in our today's lecture. The earlier lecture you had learned about Dalton's theory, Rutherford, Thomson, Bohr's theory, quantum mechanics, and today we have learned about the shell capacity, the electronic configuration, the valency, the isotopes, and the nuclear reactor. I'm sure you must have understood everything, but let's test. What have you understood? I will ask you a few questions just to know that you have understood my lecture. So can you name them? See, the name of the shells which was given to an atom for our convenience.
Teacher, KLMN.
KLMN. KLMN, which was the first, second, third, and fourth respectively orbits, that is shells. The next question coming to you is, which was the first nuclear reactor functional in India?
Teacher, Apsara in BARC.
Apsara was the first nuclear reactor in India placed at BARC. Now, can you give me the formula which we had used to decide the maximum limit of electrons of a shell?
Teacher, 2n square.
Very good, 2n square. Now, what is a valency? What do you mean by valency? I told you to see the outermost.
Teacher, sharing of electrons in atom.
Filling of electrons in an atom. No, it was something related with the outermost number of electrons. It is the capacity of accepting, sharing, or giving out electrons. Okay, so I will give you some homework and you can draw electronic configurations of oxygen, chlorine, sodium, magnesium. Draw the figure of electronic configurations and you can give me on your on my WhatsApp the pictures so that I can correct it, and this will help me to know how much you have understood from today's lecture. We will meet definitely in the next lecture of science. We will definitely meet in the next lecture of science whenever it is possible. We will be in touch with you, and I'm sure you have to take care of your health. Do not go out of your houses. Keep washing your hands and be safe and be healthy. Eat healthy. Thank you so much for today, and we will definitely meet for the next lecture.
Yes.
Yes.